In today's video, we're going to do a quick overview of the data pruner and walk you through how to set it up at the global and channel level. Hopefully, by the end of this video, you'll be able to inform your company's infrastructure and compliance teams on how the data pruner can be beneficial to your company. So, why use the data pruner? Even with the declining prices of hard disks and flash memory, not all organizations can afford to let their databases grow indefinitely. Limited resources is one of the main factors as to why IT teams are reaching out to their interface engineers in an attempt to track the trending usage in order to allocate the right amount of resources. When the database tables are allowed to grow, the indices that are originally created to make lookups quick end up not being as performant in the long run. Depending on the type of database used, if the tables are not analyzed frequently enough, queries will not behave as expected, as those indices were originally optimized for a smaller set of data. This can affect application performance in the form of slow database reads and making the message browser perform slower to query for messages. This can also be observed when using a database poller on a large table, causing a channel to appear to be running slow when in fact the table it is querying from is no longer optimized to poll from repeatedly in succession. When data needs to be recovered during unexpected system outages, it is easier to migrate smaller datasets during disaster recovery. Along with having limited resources, migrating only the relevant data helps keep backups and replicas slim as well. Finally, for regulatory compliance, organizations need to adhere to their federal, state, and local laws on how long the specific data should be held onto. Let's go ahead and dive into how to set up the data pruner at both the global and channel levels. How to take full advantage of the data pruner. The most important thing to know about the data pruner is that it must be enabled at the settings level and on a per channel basis. Plenty of interface engineers have relied on the fact that because they set the data pruner in a channel summaries tab, that they were all set and the data would not be growing. This can become a problem quickly when the typical workflow is copying an existing interface without making changes to the previous channel settings. Because of this, infrastructure or DevOps engineers should make sure that the settings level data pruner is enabled and set based on their system requirements. Let's head over to the data pruner tab under settings. As you can see, the data pruner is disabled by default. Enabling it gives us sensible settings to work from, but for our purposes, we'll go with default settings of 1-hour intervals and block size of 1000. You can set up the schedule to also be based on time and a cron interval, as well as using the advanced settings to enable the pruner on specific months and days of the week and hours of the day. We won't be diving into the archive settings in this demo, but if you're interested to learn more about them, just let us know in the comments and we may cover that in a future video. Before we move on, I wanted to let you know that we created a powerful new tool called Zen Insight that can monitor all of your Mirth Connect channels from one centralized location. It allows you to set up custom emailed alerting and see detailed statistics that can help you identify when channels are performing outside of an expected norm and spot potential problems before they cause a system outage. We use it to help us monitor the millions of messages flowing through our environments, and it has saved us a countless number of times. Click the link below to get access to a special offer for our YouTube viewers. Okay, let's jump back in. Reclaiming disk space. A few more caveats to know when running the data pruner and working with your infrastructure team. The data pruner does not reclaim physical disk space on a hard drive. This is dependent on the database used, but generally the data pruner is marking the database tuples as obsolete. In an ideal world, the number of messages received equals the number of messages being pruned in order for the database size to remain stable. You will need to check in with your infrastructure team repeatedly as the amount of interfaces and message ingestion increases. To clarify, we are telling the data pruner that every hour on the hour to go through the list of channels with enabled data pruning to prune any metadata and content that has been set at the channel level. Data is not immediately pruned until the data pruner has kicked off. We'll go ahead and click Save and head back to our channels view. As you can see from the names of channels, I have already set each channel to its own combination of pruning settings. Let's dive into Interface A first to take a look at what a new channel's pruning settings will be set to. Pruning settings are found in the Summaries tab under Message Pruning. And by default, we can see that the metadata is set to store indefinitely and content is set to prune when message metadata is removed. With this combination, the metadata, seen below, the source, and the type, which is the default metadata for all channels for HL7 type messages, will be deleted the same time as the message is being deleted. Heading over to Interface B, here's our first step in setting a channel to prune. We have the metadata set to prune after 1 day, with the content deleting once the metadata has been removed. Lastly, moving to interface C, we can actually have the metadata set to be stored indefinitely and have the content be pruned after 1 day. Changing the metadata to store indefinitely or a different day allows your team to create custom reporting based on the metadata, which is a lot smaller in comparison to the content. The added benefit of having the metadata and content separate is that having the metadata for a longer period still allows users to visually see the amount of messages in the message browser. So metadata columns can be leveraged to store message IDs and the like to track down messages up or downstream, although we have already cleared out the contents in Mirth Connect. Well, that wraps it up for our quick tutorial on setting up the data pruner in Mirth Connect. We hope that this has provided you with a better understanding about the data pruner and how you and your team can leverage it to reduce cost, increase performance, and meet regulatory requirements. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, if you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in more Mirth Connect tutorial content, be sure to subscribe to our channel as we have lots more videos in the works. If you have any questions or you need help with your integration projects, check us out on the web at consultzen.com. And if you want to speak directly with one of our Mirth Connect experts, you can schedule a meeting with us easily by clicking the link in the description below. My name is Dan Benson from Zen Healthcare IT. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.